Hi everyone, welcome to another edition of BrainScratch Searchlight. I'm your host John Lorden, and before we get started on today's episode, I have to give a quick thank you to Casey Jane. Casey Jane sent a recommendation to me through Twitter. Another one for Searchlight, Rye Hunt, missing since May 21st in Rio, and yeah, that's this May 21st, 2016, so coming up on about 3 weeks that he has been missing now. He wasn't from Rio, he is actually from Australia. I've seen it referred to as Tasmania. I don't know a whole lot about that area, so before we get started, let's take a look at Wikipedia and just learn a little about Tasmania. Tasmania is an island state of the Commonwealth of Australia. It is located 240 kilometers or 150 miles to the south of the Australian mainland. And the capital city is Hobart, which in a couple of the articles I've seen, they refer to him being from Hobart. So I believe that that is the city that he was living in, or maybe right around it. I know sometimes people say they live in a bigger city if they're in a neighboring city around it. But I've been looking into this case a bit today, and there are some extremely interesting angles that I want to go over with you. But the main thing to know is this man is still missing. It's coming up on 3 weeks now. There was some strange things that happened leading up to him becoming missing. So let's start by taking a look at an article and a picture of Rye. So here we have a photo of him. Looks like a pretty strong guy. I've seen some other photos of him, and you could tell he definitely works out a lot. His girlfriend says that he typically liked to go to the gym daily. This trip was part of a 6-month excursion that he was taking with a friend of his, and I believe they had already gone to Thailand, spent a couple weeks there. Now they were coming through South and Central America, and they came to Rio de Janeiro, and that's where the story gets interesting. So you can see by the title of this article, Rye may have used hallucinogens, says his family. Rye Hunt's family believe the Australian backpacker may have unknowingly taken a highly potent hallucinogen before he disappeared in Brazil more than a fortnight ago. Mr. Hunt's uncle and girlfriend, who are in Rio searching for the missing 25-year-old, now believe he may have taken hallucinogenic drugs rather than MDMA as previously thought. So he went to a nightclub, a very big nightclub, and it appears that he thought he might have been trying to get some MDMA, which I believe is a pretty popular party drug. However, it turns out he might have actually wound up with something called embalm. Reports from those around Rye in the lead up to his disappearance described irregular and out-of-character behaviors such as extreme paranoia, anxiety, and fear, the family said in a statement. Based on these effects, we believe Rye may have unknowingly consumed a different illicit substance while thinking he was consuming MDMA. We now believe the illicit substance to be a highly potent hallucinogen and psychedelic, often referred to as embalm. And apparently he hit it pretty hard and started acting extremely strange. There is some communication that has come out between his friend, who was talking to the owner of the club. I guess he had met them at some point, and asking the owner of the club, hey, do you know where my friend Rye is? We haven't been able to find him for a number of days. The owner of the club has been interviewed, and he does go on to say that he met these two guys. I think he knew that they were partying, and he noticed that one of them was starting to act extremely paranoid. So some very strange behavior leading up to the disappearance here. Now, he went missing on May 21st when he left Galeo International Airport in a taxi after an argument with his traveling companion, Mitchell Shepard, and booked into a Copacabana apartment. And there is actually footage of him leaving the airport and finding the apartment, or being let into the apartment. Let's watch that real quick together here. This is from a up-and-coming YouTube channel called Last News. And here we can see him. This is him in the green shirt leaving the airport. And here he's being shown to his room at an apartment in Copacabana. So the argument between him and his friend, there's a couple of different accounts of it. On the night when he was acting very paranoid. Apparently he was telling his friend that he thought people were out to kill him, that his friend might actually be out to kill him, that he wanted to steal his money and his passport or something along those lines. At the airport, it seems like they were arguing about where their next destination was going to be. And essentially, Rye decided he just needed some time to cool off. Now, his family has stated this is a normal thing for Rye. Sometimes he gets very worked up and he decides that he needs to cool off, and he'll just kind of go take a walk and come back a half an hour later. But in this case, he didn't come back. He hopped in a cab, went and found an apartment. Now, his items were actually found in the apartment. So here we have a picture of his camera, his shoes, some clothes of his, also both of his backpacking kit. I guess it's like 2 separate backpacks. Both of them are still there. His laptop was open on the bed. And when he left the apartment, I'm assuming that this is like a hotel. I don't know if they just call those apartments out there, but in all the articles, it's referring to them as apartments. When he left, he apparently did buy some beer, and there is more video footage of him leaving the apartment, but that is the last time that he is seen, and that was about 3 hours after he checked in. If I remember right, he checks into this apartment somewhere between 2:30 and 3, and around 6 p.m. that night he leaves, buys beer somewhere, which I think is the last trace of a hit on his credit card, potentially. I think that's how they traced that. And then goes missing, just completely disappears. And the media starts covering this, and it gets very funky from there. There is a fisherman that says that he bumps into Rye. Let's take a look at that part of the article. Brazilian fisherman has no doubt he saw missing Australian backpacker Rye Hunt. The fisherman, who wished to remain anonymous, told Rio's newspaper O Globo he had no doubt he saw the Tasmanian on Conduba Island, located off the coast of Rio, approximately 1 kilometer from Copacabana, the day after his disappearance on May 22nd. And what's stranger than that is he supposedly finds Rye. Rye is saying that he needs water. He's motioning that he needs something to drink. The Brazilian apparently does speak a little bit of English. He gave him 1.5 liters of water in a bottle, and he said Rye drank it all in one shot. He could see that Rye looked a bit cut up and thought that that might be because of how hard it is to essentially get onto that island. There's a lot of jagged rocks around there, and there's sea life that lives on those rocks, and he might have been hurt by that. So are we certain that this is a sighting of him? The fisherman seems fairly certain of it. The police interviewed the fisherman, and he seemed to have details, particularly about what Rye was wearing, that matched. So I believe that they think that this is a good sighting. However, the media went nuts with this, and that has been one of the hardest things about researching this case. I've literally seen news stories saying that this guy is found, literally found. And not just from one place, news stories from several different sources saying that he's found. As a matter of fact, if we take a look here at Twitter, we can see here's some more pictures of Rye and his traveling friend and his girlfriend that's looking for him. But if we look at Twitter, this is just a search for Rye Hunt. And if you look around June 1st, first you get possible sightings. Then we get reports that missing Australian Rye Hunt found on an island in Rio de Janeiro may have suffered a psychotic episode. Brazil police believe they may have found missing Tasmanian man Rye Hunt alive. Reports Aussie Rye Hunt found alive in Brazil. Family released a statement saying they're hopeful but cautious. Sunset Perth News, Brazilian police, they've found missing FIFO worker Rye Hunt. It goes on and on and on, and the strange thing is, like I've kind of complained about in other videos, I don't see anyone trying to correct this information. It's almost like all these sources reported, hey, he's found, and no one ever comes back and says, well, we didn't fact check, no, that's incorrect. It seems like one news organization started reporting that and the rest of us just followed suit. You never see anyone admit to anything like that, and it really drives me nuts. But there is newer information. There are newer articles that are stating pretty clearly that the hunt for him is still on. So if you bump into info and it says that he's found, double check the date on it. If it is before June 3rd, It's probably part of this little media frenzy that happened around him supposedly being found, but apparently he is not found. So here is a Google map just showing the area. You've got Copacabana out here, and then this supposedly is the island. And when they asked his family, is he known for being this type of a swimmer? I mean, that's a pretty, I guess that's a pretty tough swim, not particularly far maybe, but it is indeed tough. They said no. They didn't think that that was really something he was into, doing any kind of swims like that. So I'm really not sure, outside of the very strong statement by the Fisherman, are we positive that that was a sighting of Rye? I'm really not sure. Then in another twist, we have this information, and this is from news.com.au. Last week, a body with clothing similar to that worn by Mr. Hunt was spotted by fishermen in the sea off the coast of Rio de Janeiro. And they're saying that this sighting was near the island of Raza, 8 kilometers from Copacabana Beach. So now we're talking much farther out. And they deployed their Navy to try to find this body. They searched for 72 hours. They could not find this body. So they have now suspended the search. I believe I also saw an article, and take this with a grain of salt because we're talking about the media that's been misreporting all over this case. But I think I even saw an article saying that the Brazilian police have also suspended their search just as of yesterday. I didn't see any reasoning for that. I don't know why they would do that. But it seems to me like the authorities are starting to kind of give up on this search. So I thought it was a key time to do an episode of Searchlight on it and try to keep awareness raised around this. And hopefully someone out there has some information, maybe saw him somewhere. So here is another picture of Rye with his friend Mitchell Shepard. And I'm just going to ask all of you, if you have friends particularly in the area of Rio de Janeiro, please share this information with them. Make sure everyone is looking for Rye. From what I've heard, his family found a lot of people that were very helpful in terms of giving them details of where they thought he might be. But apparently that information is not funneling back to the police. I don't know if there's some kind of cultural thing out there where people don't trust the Rio police very much, but I did see in a couple of articles where there's some type of noticeable stopgap with information. The family's able to get it, but not necessarily the police. So if you have info, or if you know someone that has info, please, please, please use the information in the description box below. Get that information into the right hands so these people can figure out what happened to Rye. And if you do some searches on this, you can find some video segments. His girlfriend is, it's pretty amazing the work that her and his uncle are doing in terms of trying to keep awareness raised, handing out flyers in Rio with his picture on them. Their spirits seem somewhat high in some of the news segments, but what they're facing is just extremely tough. So anything that anyone can do out there to try to help them in this search would definitely mean the world to them. And that's why we do Searchlight. So I'm hoping that this can be helpful in some way. And once again, here is the video. Just wanted to post a couple more photos before we end this segment. Here is another picture of Rye with his friend Mitchell Shepard. And finally, the one that we saw a little bit of earlier in the episode, of him with his girlfriend, Bonnie. All right, Brain Scratchers, this is where I turn it over to you. In terms of theories, I think what we're looking at here is, I mean, it seems pretty clear that he became delusional to some extent the night before. Was that still impacting him this day where he left the airport? Possibly. Did he continue the party? Did he have more of the substance on him? I really have no idea. We do know he went out and bought some beer. Did the alcohol combine with that substance and give him some more trouble? I'm really not sure. The best that we can say, I think, is that he appeared to take a very long swim to a island that is uninhabited. I don't think there's anyone that lives out there. Why he would have done that? Was he still fearful of everyone around him? Did he feel like people were after him or something like that? I'm really not sure. And then we have this, what I consider pretty loose information of this sighting at the second island of a body floating in the water that seemed to match the type of clothing. Is he really lost at sea? I think we have to consider that possibility, but I don't think it's time to give up hope yet. This case is really early on, and there are many other possibilities. He was already traveling. He was already in that kind of mindset of going different places. I think he probably would have taken his things with him if he was, deciding to take his own journey and splitting with his traveling partner and going his own way. Did he meet potentially some type of foul play out there? I really don't know. Is there something that the police know that they're not releasing to the public or to the family? It's extremely hard to say in this case. And if you do dig into this case, just watch the news coverage on this, because they're reporting things from literally across the world, and the details and the fact checking seems to be getting a little muddied up. So know that the information that you're going to bump into might not be exactly clear about what's really going on in this case. And I'm just hopeful for his friends and his family that he is out there somewhere, almost like the Lars Matunk case, and hopefully he can straighten this out and get back to his friends and family and return to civilization. Another tough one, but I'm looking forward to seeing your thoughts on it. Please put them in the comments below. Of course, include any additional research. I would love to hear that he's found for reals this time, instead of all these articles that say he was found, even though it appears that he hasn't been. So I'm hopeful that this might be one of those cases where we can do an update on it very soon, that he has indeed been found. But for right now, he's missing and his family needs help, and that's where you come in. Thank you so much for joining me on this edition of BrainScratch Searchlight. I truly, truly appreciate each and every one of you that watch this series and help spread the word about these cases. That's exactly why we do it. And thank you so much for checking me out on the Geek and Dorks channel. I hope you have a great day and take care.